everybody. He'd take a carload of us teenagers and take us to these seminars down in Jacksonville, and he just really worked with the young people. He's an incredibly brilliant man. I forgot what I was going to tell you.
About Dr. Studer.
Yeah, I was going to tell you something about him, but I forgot what. Oh, he wanted to have the baccalaureate, whatever, when you have a preacher, have a service, getting through with high school graduation, okay?
Right.
Well, they wouldn't give it to him. He said, well, I'll just tell you, I'll have my own baccalaureate service, which he did. He had every one of us, one but 11 of us in the class that I graduated with. He had us all down at Arches for a nice steak dinner and so forth, and that's just the way he was. He was an incredibly great
Where'd
man.
they have the regular baccalaureate?
We had it at the high school.
Oh.
So, it's a theater, the picture show.
Okay, and he
It's
had
a
a separate
theater.
one.
So he just had a separate one at the church for all of us that wanted to participate.
And what about the Bible?
Well, he gave, I think this is, he gave us this Bible, I think for graduation.
So that'd be
The ones of us that
1940,
was in the church.
1946.
Yeah, this goes back that far. This was presented by the Executive Committee of the Georgia Baptist Convention, Dr. James W. Merritt, Executive Secretary. He was big time in Baptist way back, March 28th, 1950. The reason for that was we only had one, and I wrote over here, since we had only one graduation a year. Mine came on March 28th. They just have one. We had a class that started in March, one in June, and one in September. But they just have one graduation. You'd go through graduation, but you still had to stay till you worked out all your days. So that was the reason. Mine came on March 28th. However, I actually was given diploma and pen August 28, 1950, the day I officially completed my 3 years of nurses training. Gene Spear King, and signed by James W. Merritt, head of the Georgia Baptist Convention. And he dated it March 28, 1950, but September the 13th would have been my last day, but I got out right about the last of August, I think, as long as I had X number of days in that 1 year. And so I got through.
So did you go right to work where?
Well, I had a job at Jessup. I just decided, I don't know how I thought I was going to get there. I would have no transportation when I got there. I reckon I'd have gone then. Back then, the hospitals provided the nurses as room and board as part of the pay. We'd go through the cafeteria for free and all that, you know. But I already had that job, and I'd been going with your daddy. I met him. You know when I met him?
Where?
I'd been home. We got 5 days at Christmas and New Year's alternated, and we just had to draw straws to get whoever. And I had gotten after Christmas, and I'd come back on New Year's Day, and Dickie Lee, his daddy, had a vegetable truck that, let it go. His dad had a vegetable truck, and he'd come around through the neighborhoods there where we lived in the apartments, and had his little scales on the back, and toot his horn. You'd go out there and get all this good
What
fresh.
was this, Christmas 1949? 1950.
1950.
Okay.
I was just about through, see. And Dick was always bringing his little old high school friends over there and wanting us, and I finally told him, I said, Dick, I'm going to tell you something. Don't bring any more of them little old twirly high school boys. I was always mature for my age. I started my periods at age 11. Willow did too. But I was ahead of her with that, and I was just more mature. And high schoolers didn't appeal to me at all.
Right.
And there were no boys to date, you know. The tech students would come over there sometime, and once in a while they'd bring some cars over there and get 2 or 3 carloads of us, take over there, have some girls at whatever party they're going to have, you know. We kind of worked along with it. I never was asked much to go. I don't know why, but I probably didn't look to suit them, and I was probably too ignorant to have sense enough to know how to run out with the boys much. I never did much dating. But anyway, Dickie Lee's daddy was Mr. Lee. He would in and out all the time. He was a bad alcoholic. He was always getting in the hospital. Well, Dick was his son. Well, he'd bring his little high school friends over there to visit his dad, and they'd naturally, little old nurses glad to see any fella come along, you know. And we'd go out with them. I went out with several different ones, just a whole carload of us, you know. We'd go get something at the bar stand. I don't know where we'd go, what we'd do. None of us didn't have much money, including the guys. But anyway, he called me one night and said, Gene, now please don't let me talk. And he said, I know you told me not to bring anybody else over there for you to date, but he said, this guy is just fantastic. I just think you'd really like him. Turned out to be your daddy. I said, I'm going to go down, and we was in an old 2-story house right there, right down
So
from
this
the
is
hospital.
Christmas 1950.
Christmas of 1950, yeah,
The week.
that I met
So y'all got married, what, a month later?
No, a year later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this was
Okay,
this
so-
was Christmas before I had 9 more
Okay,
months. to
okay,
go.
I got you.
Okay. Let me see now. Anyway, I told them, I said, they just not mature enough for me. I just, you know, high school kids, you know, I just please don't. So he didn't bother me. He said, I respect that. His daddy was in and out so much, you know, all the little nurses. He'd bring his friends up there, you know, and a lot of them were boys, you know, the little nurses would make dates with and all, go out with them. That was all right. But, wait now, I'm trying to keep it straight. I said, Dickie, you can bring him if you want, and mine, it was like a whole residence, like a house, just like this house. Then there was a separate door that went up a set of stairs, and there was an apartment over here where 2 of the graduate nurses that were employed by the hospital lived. A lot of times they provided room and board back then, a lot of you pay. And then over here was another set of 3 rooms where they put 9 of us girls in. I was in the middle room with 2 double-deck bumper beds and had 4 girls in that one room, 3 in front room and 2 in the back room and 1 bathroom. But anyway, let me see now, where was it here? I got Dickie. Oh, so I told him, and I let him bring him, and I don't know, we went out to Grant Park, and just, back then it was safe to walk. We'd get out there and walk. We went and sat in the swing, and I don't know where Dick was. Him and the gal went off somewhere. And Dad and I sat there in that swing and talked, and I felt like when I went back upstairs that night, I said, if I could find that man, I could have him, I could be happy for the rest of my life. Daddy told me all about his family, and I told him all about mine. We sat there in the swing and stayed the longest time. Had to be back in by 12 o'clock. That was curfew. And I did. I went back and I said, if I could just marry that man, I believe I could be happy the rest of my life. Well, Daddy, he didn't call. He called me some. Then I went home. I don't know why he quit calling me. I don't know what happened, but I just didn't hear from him, and it broke my heart. And one night he phone rang, said, I think you still could go out with me, you know. Did something. I don't know how he got around to doing it, but I started going back out with him again. Then he was going home for July 4th and wanted to take me with him, which I had to get permission. They said Aunt Jenny's permission would be all right, but I'd have to get permission from somebody. Georgia Baptist was strict on us. I had to get permission from. It was too late to get it from home because it all happened so fast.
Mm.
And so Aunt Jenny signed a little paper for me saying she gave her permission for me. They said, we'll accept that. Then you wanted to go and you was going with Daddy.
Well, she's nursing then. She wasn't house mother yet.
No, Aunt Jenny was working, nursing.
Okay.
She lived in, there was a house, they had the whole downstairs, I think, or just an apartment. It was one of these old houses on East Avenue, probably about a block down from Boulevard where the hospital was. Yeah, Aunt Jenny was still working then. She came down there and got me and hand carried me back, so to speak. I spent the night with her, and then she walked me down to Georgia Baptist and said, okay, you're on your own now. That was from then on.
Right.
And it was the best move I ever made, you know. I wouldn't have had Daddy, wouldn't have had y'all, wouldn't got any education. Probably be down there married to some old river rat. All right.